Long ago, in the depths of cosmic time, a truth was buried beneath layers of deception, academic dismissal, and deliberate suppression. Today, that truth emerges from the shadows like a blazing star piercing through the veil of manufactured ignorance. What you are about to witness is not mere speculation or fantasy. It is the forbidden revelation that has sent shockwaves through the corridors of power, the halls of academia, and the secret chambers where humanity's true origins have been hidden for millennia. The year 2025 marks a pivotal moment in human consciousness. As we stand on the precipice of cosmic awakening, ancient memories stir within our DNA, whispering secrets that the controllers of this world desperately want to keep buried. But the time of concealment is ending. The age of revelation has dawned, and with it comes the most explosive truth ever unveiled to humanity. This is the story the establishment fears most. The story of the Anunnaki, the ancient astronaut gods who shaped our species, our planet, and our destiny in ways that would shatter the very foundations of everything you thought you knew about human existence. For generations, we have been fed a carefully crafted lie about our origins. The academic priesthood, with their diplomas and degrees hanging like badges of deception, have proclaimed that human evolution followed a neat, orderly progression. They tell us that approximately 6 million years ago, some primitive ape decided to stand upright, marking the humble beginning of our species' journey toward consciousness. According to their sanitized narrative, for countless eons our ancestors lived as barely sentient creatures, struggling for survival with nothing but crude tools and the mastery of fire to show for their existence. Then, they claim, through the miracle of gradual evolution, we slowly developed the cognitive abilities that separate us from the animal kingdom. But here lies the greatest deception ever perpetrated upon humanity. The timeline they present is not just flawed, it is deliberately falsified to hide a truth so profound that its revelation would collapse their entire system of control. Consider this cosmic riddle. Homo sapiens, in our current form, have existed for over 300,000 years. 300,000 years of human consciousness on this planet. Yet for 290,000 of those years, 97% of our existence, we supposedly accomplished virtually nothing. We lived in caves, hunted with sticks, and remained locked in a state of primitive ignorance that would make even the simplest modern child appear as a genius by comparison. Then, approximately 20,000 years ago, something extraordinary occurred, something that defies every principle of gradual evolution and natural development. In a cosmic instant, a mere blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, humanity experienced a transformation so radical, so complete, that it can only be described as a quantum leap in consciousness. Within this impossibly short time frame, our ancestors went from crude cave dwellers to the architects of monumental structures like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built over 11,000 years ago with precision that challenges our modern engineering capabilities. They developed complex astronomical knowledge, sophisticated mathematical systems, and architectural techniques that we struggle to comprehend even today. But the acceleration didn't stop there. In just 12,000 years, a nanosecond in cosmic terms, humanity progressed from these mysterious megalithic builders to launching spacecraft into the depths of space, splitting atoms, manipulating genetic codes, and peering into the very fabric of reality itself. This is not evolution. This is intervention. Deep in the ancient lands of Mesopotamia, in the cradle of what we call civilization, lies evidence of humanity's true awakening. The Sumerians, emerging from the mists of prehistory approximately 7,000 years ago, brought with them knowledge and capabilities that should have taken our species hundreds of thousands of years to develop naturally. These remarkable people didn't simply stumble upon writing. They created the first sophisticated written language system seemingly overnight. They didn't gradually develop the wheel through trial and error. They engineered complex transportation systems that revolutionized human mobility. Their irrigation networks transformed barren deserts into fertile paradises with a precision that required advanced understanding of hydraulics, mathematics, and engineering. But their achievements extend far beyond basic technology. The Sumerians possessed astronomical knowledge that staggers the modern mind. They knew of planets in our solar system that weren't officially discovered by modern astronomy until the invention of powerful telescopes. They understood celestial mechanics, calculated orbital periods, and developed mathematical systems that we still use today. Their duodecimal system gave us our 12-month calendar. Their sexagesimal system provides the foundation for our measurement of time, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. These weren't random choices or gradual developments. They represent sophisticated mathematical concepts that required advanced understanding of cosmic cycles and celestial mathematics. Most remarkably, the Sumerians established URNAMMU, the first codified legal system in recorded history. This wasn't a simple set of tribal rules. It was a complex jurisprudential framework that addressed property rights, commercial transactions, family law, and criminal justice with a sophistication that rivals modern legal systems. How could a people who supposedly emerged from primitive hunter-gatherer societies develop such advanced knowledge in virtually every field of human endeavor? The answer lies not in gradual evolution, but in direct intervention by beings of superior intelligence and capability. Hidden within the cuneiform tablets of ancient Sumer lies a secret that archaeologists and historians have either ignored or deliberately suppressed. These clay testimonies speak of humanity's true purpose in the early days of our awakening, not as independent beings developing our own civilization, but as a workforce created for a specific and extraordinary purpose. The tablets reveal that for thousands of years, human beings labored in deep mines, extracting vast quantities of gold from the earth's depths. But here emerges a profound mystery that shatters conventional understanding. This gold had no value to ancient humans. Unlike modern times, when we understand gold's unique properties as a conductor, catalyst, and industrial material, our ancestors had no use for this precious metal beyond its aesthetic appeal. Gold, as we now know, possesses remarkable properties that make it invaluable for advanced civilizations. It conducts electricity with minimal resistance, making it essential for sophisticated electronics and communication systems. It remains chemically stable, resistant to corrosion and oxidation, making it perfect for long-term technological applications. Most intriguingly, gold can be processed into nanoparticles that, when suspended in an atmosphere, create a reflective barrier capable of regulating temperature and filtering harmful radiation. Yet our ancestors, working with primitive tools in dangerous underground conditions, extracted millions of tons of this material and shipped it. Where? For whom? Why would Stone Age humans risk their lives mining a substance they couldn't use, understand, or value? The Sumerian texts provide a clear answer. They mined gold for the gods, not metaphorical deities or spiritual concepts, but literal beings who demanded this material for their own technological purposes. Beings who possessed the knowledge to understand gold's true value and the capability to process it for uses that ancient humans couldn't comprehend. This wasn't random mining or accidental discovery. The extraction operations described in the texts were systematic, organized, and directed by superior intelligences who understood exactly what they needed and why they needed it. The cuneiform tablets speak with crystal clarity about the true architects of human civilization. They were called the Anunnaki, literally meaning those who from heaven to earth came. These were not mythological figures or symbolic representations of natural forces. According to the detailed records left by the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were flesh and blood beings who arrived on Earth with technology and knowledge far beyond anything possessed by primitive humans. The tablets described their physical appearance with remarkable consistency. The Anunnaki stood between 3 and 4 meters tall, giants by human standards, with elongated skulls that housed larger brains than terrestrial humans. Their cranial structure was so distinctive that cultures across the world began artificially elongating their own skulls in attempts to resemble their gods. This practice, found in Egypt, Peru, Mexico, and dozens of other ancient civilizations, represents a deliberate attempt to mimic the appearance of superior beings. Their skin was described as fair, almost luminous, and their eyes possessed an intensity that marked them as clearly different from ordinary humans. They wore elaborate robes and possessed artifacts of power that seemed magical to primitive human observers. But these weren't supernatural abilities. They were advanced technologies that appeared miraculous to beings who had barely mastered fire and stone tools. The Anunnaki called themselves after their supreme ruler, Anu, who governed their homeworld from a great distance. According to the texts, Anu dispatched his 2 sons, Enki and Enlil, to Earth with a specific mission: establish a colony and begin systematic extraction of gold to save their dying planet. This wasn't a random exploration or accidental discovery. The Anunnaki came to Earth with a clear purpose: advanced technology and detailed knowledge of what they would find here. They knew about Earth's gold deposits, understood the material's value for their atmospheric restoration project, and had the capability to travel across the vast distances of space to reach our world. Modern astronomy acknowledges a disturbing gap in our understanding of the solar system. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, gravitational anomalies suggest the presence of a massive celestial body that exerts significant influence on smaller objects in the outer solar system. NASA has designated this theoretical object Planet 9, while others refer to it as Planet X, or the 10th planet. But to the Sumerians and their Anunnaki teachers, this mysterious world had a specific name: Nibiru. The tablets describe it as a massive planet following an extremely elongated orbit that brings it into the inner solar system once every 3,600 Earth years. During these close approaches, Nibiru becomes visible from Earth, appearing as a bright star or second sun in the sky. According to Anunnaki records preserved in Sumerian texts, Nibiru suffered from severe atmospheric degradation that threatened all life on the planet. Their scientists discovered that by dispersing gold nanoparticles in their upper atmosphere, they could create a protective barrier that would reflect harmful solar radiation while retaining necessary heat. But their world contained insufficient gold deposits to implement this planetary salvation project. This desperate need drove them across the solar system in search of worlds rich in the precious metal they required for survival. Earth, with its abundant gold deposits easily accessible through mining operations, became their target for colonization and resource extraction. The cyclical nature of Nibiru's orbit explains many mysterious aspects of human history. Ancient civilizations worldwide speak of periodic visitations by gods who arrive from the sky, establish great works, and then depart, promising to return at appointed times. These aren't mythological cycles. They represent actual visitations timed to Nibiru's orbital approaches to Earth. As Anunnaki mining operations expanded across Earth, they faced an inevitable logistical problem. The work was brutal, dangerous, and required massive amounts of manual labor. Their own people, advanced beings accustomed to sophisticated technology and comfortable living conditions, were poorly suited for the grueling physical demands of deep mining operations. Initially, they attempted to use Earth's primitive inhabitants, early hominids who possessed basic tool-making abilities and survival instincts. But these creatures lacked the intelligence to follow complex instructions, the physical strength for heavy mining work, and the cognitive capacity to operate even simple machinery. Enki, the brilliant scientist among the Anunnaki leadership, proposed a radical solution: genetic hybridization. By combining Anunnaki DNA with that of Earth's most promising hominid species, they could create a new race of beings, more intelligent than primitive humans, stronger and more capable than their creators intended them to be, yet still controllable enough to serve as an effective workforce. The early experiments were catastrophic failures. The genetic incompatibilities between Anunnaki and terrestrial DNA produced horrible mutations that echo through our myths and legends even today. The Cyclops of Greek mythology, with its single massive eye, may be a cultural memory of failed hybrids whose cranial structures couldn't accommodate properly developed visual systems. The giants and monsters described in numerous ancient texts likely represent other experimental failures, beings with enhanced size and strength but lacking cognitive stability or normal social behaviors. These failed creations were deemed abominations and destroyed, their twisted forms serving as grim reminders of the challenges facing the genetic engineers attempting to bridge the gap between two very different evolutionary paths. Desperate for success, the Anunnaki decided upon a more direct approach. Rather than attempting to engineer solutions in laboratory settings, they would use one of their own females as a surrogate mother. A carefully prepared genetic combination, Anunnaki DNA modified to be compatible with terrestrial biology, was implanted in a volunteer who carried the hybrid creation to term. The result was Adamu, whose name echoes through religious traditions as Adam, the first man. This successful hybrid possessed the intelligence to understand complex instructions, the physical capability to perform demanding labor, and enough Anunnaki genetic material to be significantly superior to unmodified humans, yet not enough to challenge their creator's authority. The creation of successful human Anunnaki hybrids solved the immediate labor shortage, but it introduced complications that the genetic engineers never anticipated. The first generation of workers, led by Adamu and his female counterpart, proved remarkably efficient at mining operations. They could operate simple machinery, follow complex instructions, and work in coordination with their fellow hybrids in ways that impressed their creators. But as generations passed, something unexpected began happening. The hybrid workers started developing capabilities that exceeded their original programming. They showed creativity, curiosity, and independence of thought that made some Anunnaki uncomfortable. More troubling still, they began developing emotional bonds not just with each other, but with their creators. Some Anunnaki found themselves drawn to these remarkable beings who combined the best qualities of both species. Secret relationships developed between Anunnaki males and human females. These unions produced offspring with even higher percentages of Anunnaki genetic material. Beings who possessed enhanced intelligence, psychic abilities, and independence of thought that made them unsuitable as mere laborers. These second-generation hybrids began questioning their circumstances. Why should they spend their lives in dangerous mines extracting gold for beings who lived in comfort while they struggled for survival? Why should they accept their role as servants when they possessed intelligence and capabilities that in many ways matched their creators? As these more advanced humans multiplied and their influence spread, they began organizing resistance movements. They shared knowledge, developed new technologies, and started building their own settlements independent of Anunnaki control. What had begun as a simple labor creation project was evolving into something far more complex, the emergence of a species that combined human adaptability with Anunnaki intelligence. As the hybrid human population grew and became increasingly independent, the Anunnaki leadership faced a crisis they hadn't anticipated. What had begun as a carefully controlled breeding program to create workers had evolved into an explosion of intelligent, capable beings who were rapidly spreading across the planet and developing their own civilizations. Enki, who had originally championed the creation of human workers, now found himself in the position of needing to control his successful experiment. The human population was multiplying at an alarming rate, consuming resources and developing technologies that might eventually threaten Anunnaki supremacy on Earth. To reduce human numbers and reassert control, Enki implemented a series of systematic disasters. Droughts were engineered to destroy agricultural systems and force population migrations. Diseases were introduced to weaken communities and reduce fertility rates. Swarms of insects were released to destroy crops and spread further illness. These weren't natural disasters. They were deliberate population control measures designed to remind humans of their dependence on their creators. The parallels to biblical plagues are not coincidental. These events, recorded in religious texts as divine punishments, represent historical memories of systematic oppression carried out by technologically superior beings. But rather than simply destroying human populations, Enki chose a different strategy. He drove the most troublesome human communities away from Anunnaki mining colonies, forcing them to migrate across the planet and establish new settlements far from the centers of extraterrestrial power. This diaspora spread human Anunnaki hybrids across continents, carrying with them fragmented knowledge of advanced technologies and memories of their origins. As human civilizations flourished and developed with knowledge inherited from their Anunnaki creators, a new light began appearing in Earth's skies. While humans marveled at what appeared to be a new star or second sun, the Anunnaki recognized it immediately. Nibiru was returning on its 3,600-year orbital cycle, approaching the inner solar system once again. By this time, the gold extraction project had achieved its primary objective. Massive quantities of the precious metal had been shipped to Nibiru, where it was being processed into atmospheric nanoparticles and deployed to create the planetary shield necessary to protect their world from radiation damage. The immediate crisis that had driven them to Earth was being resolved. With their mission nearing completion and their homeworld approaching, the Anunnaki began preparing for departure. But they faced a moral dilemma regarding the human populations they had created and abandoned across Earth. Nibiru's approach would cause massive gravitational disruptions, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and most devastatingly, global flooding, as the planet's gravitational field interacted with Earth's oceans. The majority of Anunnaki leadership made a cold calculation. Humanity had served its purpose as a workforce, and the approaching catastrophe would conveniently eliminate the evidence of their genetic intervention. They would return to Nibiru and leave their creations to face destruction alone. But not all Anunnaki agreed with this abandonment. Some had developed genuine affection for the human beings they had helped create. Others recognized that these remarkable hybrids represented something unique in the galaxy, a species that combined the best qualities of both parent races and might prove valuable in future cosmic endeavors. As Nibiru's gravitational influence grew stronger, tectonic instabilities began wreaking havoc across Earth. Massive earthquakes shattered mountain ranges, volcanic activity filled the atmosphere with ash and debris, and most catastrophically, the gravitational stress caused polar ice caps to shift and ocean levels to rise dramatically. The Great Flood wasn't a divine punishment. It was a natural consequence of Nibiru's close approach to Earth, combined with the planet's unstable climate conditions following centuries of industrial mining and atmospheric manipulation by Anunnaki technology. Among the Anunnaki who refused to abandon humanity was a scientist priest who had worked closely with human populations and understood their potential for future development. This being, known in the tablets as a servant of Enki, approached a human leader named Utnapishtim with instructions that would preserve not just human life, but the genetic diversity necessary for species recovery. Utnapishtim, whose story predates the biblical Noah by thousands of years, was told to construct a massive vessel capable of surviving the coming flood. But this wasn't simply a boat for saving his family. The instructions included detailed specifications for preserving seeds, animal breeding pairs, and most importantly, the genetic records and technological knowledge that would allow human civilization to recover and continue developing. The Ark described in Sumerian texts wasn't just a survival craft. It was a genetic preservation vault designed by advanced beings who understood exactly what would be needed to restart civilization after a global catastrophe. The dimensions, materials, and construction techniques specified in the instructions reveal engineering knowledge far beyond what Bronze Age humans could have developed independently. When the waters finally receded and Utnapishtim's Ark came to rest on solid ground, the survivors found themselves in a world transformed. The advanced civilizations built during the Anunnaki period had been wiped away, their technologies lost beneath layers of flood sediment. Humanity faced a complete restart, but this time they carried within their DNA and cultural memories the seeds of everything they would need to rebuild. The Great Flood described in Sumerian texts wasn't an isolated regional event. Evidence of this catastrophe appears in the foundational myths of every major civilization on Earth, suggesting a shared memory of a global disaster that affected all human populations. In the Hindu Puranas, Vishnu appears as Matsya, the fish avatar, warning Manu of an approaching deluge that will destroy all life. Manu builds a great ship, gathers the seeds of all plants and animals, and survives to repopulate the earth after the waters recede. The parallels to the Utnapishtim story are unmistakable, yet Hindu civilization developed independently of Mesopotamian influence. Chinese legends speak of a cosmic catastrophe that reshaped the entire world. The Yellow Emperor and other divine figures worked to repair the damage caused by flooding that covered the highest mountains and threatened to eliminate all life. These stories describe advanced beings using sophisticated technology to restore cosmic balance after a near-extinction event. Polynesian oral traditions tell of Nu, a hero who receives divine warning of rising waters that will consume all land. He builds a massive canoe, saves his family and countless animals, and eventually finds new land where they can establish a new civilization. Remarkably, these stories spread across thousands of Pacific islands by peoples who had no contact with Middle Eastern or Asian cultures. Greek mythology records Zeus's decision to destroy humanity with a great flood, sparing only Deucalion and Pyrrha who survive in an ark and later repopulate the earth by throwing stones that transform into new human beings. This symbolic story of recreation echoes the genetic preservation and restoration themes found in older flood narratives. Native American traditions across both continents describe world-ending floods, followed by the emergence of new tribes guided by powerful spirits or sky beings. The Hopi speak of previous worlds destroyed by water, with survivors carrying ancient knowledge into new cycles of human development. These aren't coincidental similarities or cultural borrowing. They represent shared genetic and cultural memories of a real event that affected every human population on Earth. The consistency of details, divine warnings, massive construction projects, animal and seed preservation, and post-flood guidance by superior beings suggests a common source. Actual historical experience passed down through thousands of generations. After the floodwaters receded and human survivors began emerging from their shelters, they found themselves in a world stripped of its previous technological achievements. The great cities, advanced machinery, and accumulated knowledge of the pre-flood era had been swept away, leaving humanity to start over with only the most basic survival skills. But the Anunnaki, who had chosen to remain on Earth, weren't content to let their genetic children struggle in ignorance. Enlil and Enki, despite their disagreements about humanity's future, agreed on one crucial point. The human species possessed too much potential to be left to redevelop civilization through trial and error over millions of years. These benevolent Anunnaki became the teachers and guide figures remembered in post-flood myths worldwide. They introduced mathematics, showing survivors how to calculate and measure with precision necessary for architecture and agriculture. They shared engineering principles that allowed the construction of permanent settlements, irrigation systems, and monumental buildings that would endure for millennia. Most importantly, they provided the foundation knowledge for what we call the sciences: astronomy, medicine, metallurgy, and chemistry. But this wasn't random information sharing. The knowledge transfer followed a careful pattern designed to ensure that humanity would eventually redevelop the technological capabilities necessary to rejoin the cosmic community. The mathematical systems taught by the Anunnaki, base 60 calculations, geometric principles, astronomical observations, contained embedded information that would only become useful once human civilization reached sufficient sophistication to understand their deeper meanings. These weren't just practical tools, they were time-release packages of advanced knowledge designed to activate when humanity was ready to handle more complex concepts. As human populations stabilized and new civilizations began emerging from the post-flood recovery, the remaining Anunnaki prepared for their final departure. Their homeworld Nibiru was moving away from the inner solar system, and the window for returning to their people was closing. But before leaving Earth forever, they established what can only be described as monitoring stations, carefully selected human bloodlines that carried higher percentages of Anunnaki DNA and would serve as genetic bridges between species. These royal families, priest classes, and mystery school initiates would preserve advanced knowledge and maintain the potential for future contact when Nibiru returned to the inner solar system. The Anunnaki understood that their greatest creation, the human Anunnaki genetic hybrid, represented something precious that shouldn't be left to random chance. Before their departure, they established carefully managed breeding programs designed to preserve and concentrate their genetic contribution to humanity. Certain family lines were selected based on their higher percentages of Anunnaki DNA, evidenced by enhanced intelligence, psychic abilities, natural leadership capabilities, and physical characteristics that marked them as descendants of the gods. These bloodlines were given special knowledge, advanced technologies, and most importantly, the responsibility to maintain genetic purity through carefully arranged marriages. The concept of divine right to rule wasn't a political convenience, it was a genetic reality. Royal families across ancient civilizations possessed measurably different capabilities from common populations. They lived longer, showed greater intelligence, and often displayed abilities that seemed supernatural to ordinary humans. These weren't random gifts of fortune, they were genetic inheritances from their Anunnaki ancestors. Mystery schools and priesthoods served as preservation centers for both genetic material and advanced knowledge. Initiates underwent selection processes designed to identify individuals carrying dormant Anunnaki genetic markers. Those who proved suitable received training in mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and other sciences far beyond what their civilizations should have possessed. The Egyptian priesthood, Babylonian Magi, Hebrew Levites, and similar castes worldwide weren't just religious functionaries, they were genetic preservationists maintaining Anunnaki bloodlines and knowledge systems until their creator's return. The elaborate rituals, sacred geometry, and astronomical calculations that characterized these groups weren't worship practices, they were technological maintenance protocols. Even today, certain family lines continue carrying these genetic markers and the responsibilities that come with them. The persistent elite bloodlines that appear throughout history in positions of power and influence aren't accidents of fortune or political cunning. They represent the continuation of an ancient genetic preservation program established by beings who understood that their hybrid creations would need guidance and leadership as they developed toward cosmic consciousness. Using the sophisticated astronomical calculations preserved in Sumerian texts, modern researchers have projected forward to determine when Nibiru will next approach Earth's vicinity. The mathematics are precise and unforgiving, Approximately 2900 CE marks the completion of another 3,600-year orbital cycle. This approaching date holds significance far beyond academic curiosity. According to Anunnaki records, their departure from Earth wasn't permanent. It was a strategic withdrawal timed to their planet's orbital mechanics. They would return when Nibiru once again entered the inner solar system, and they expected to find humanity significantly advanced from the primitive post-flood survivors they had left behind. By their calculations, 3,600 years should provide sufficient time for human civilization to redevelop technology, explore space, and perhaps even achieve interstellar travel capabilities. The knowledge packages they embedded in human culture and genetics were designed to mature and activate during this period, preparing us for reunion with our creators. But the Anunnaki couldn't have anticipated the exponential rate of human technological development during the past century. What they expected might take millennia to achieve, we have accomplished in decades. We've split atoms, manipulated genetic codes, launched spacecraft to other planets, and developed communication systems that span the globe instantaneously. This acceleration suggests that the dormant Anunnaki genetic material in human DNA is activating ahead of schedule, triggered by approaching cosmic events or simply the natural maturation of hybrid genetic systems. We may be much closer to reunion with our creators than their original timeline anticipated. The question facing humanity as we enter this cosmic inflection point is not whether the Anunnaki will return. The mathematical certainty of Nibiru's orbit guarantees their approach. The question is whether we will be ready to meet them as equals, as the mature hybrid species they hope to create, or as the same primitive beings they left behind after the flood. Across our world today, signs multiply that we are approaching a cosmic threshold unlike anything in recorded human history. The ancient knowledge locked within our DNA appears to be activating spontaneously, manifesting in ways that our current scientific paradigms struggle to explain or acknowledge. Human consciousness is expanding at an unprecedented rate. Psychic abilities, once considered rare gifts, are becoming increasingly common. Children born in recent decades display cognitive capabilities, intuitive knowledge, and technological aptitude that surpass previous generations by orders of magnitude. These aren't random improvements in human potential. They represent the activation of dormant genetic programs installed by our Anunnaki creators. Technological development has accelerated beyond all historical precedent. In the span of a single century, we progressed from horse-drawn transportation to space exploration, from mechanical calculation to artificial intelligence, from simple chemistry to genetic engineering. This exponential curve matches exactly what would be expected if advanced knowledge embedded in human genetic memory was beginning to surface. Most significantly, our space exploration programs are discovering evidence that supports ancient Sumerian astronomical knowledge. Gravitational anomalies beyond Neptune confirm the existence of massive objects in the outer solar system. Deep space observation reveals orbital mechanics that match descriptions found in cuneiform tablets. We are rediscovering truths that our ancestors recorded thousands of years ago without the technological means to have learned them independently. The suppression and ridicule directed toward ancient astronaut theories by academic and governmental authorities isn't random skepticism. It represents a desperate attempt to maintain control over populations that are beginning to remember their true origins. As more people awaken to the reality of our genetic and historical connections to extraterrestrial beings, the power structures built on deception and ignorance begin to crumble. This awakening cannot be stopped. It is programmed into our genetic structure, timed to activate as we approach reunion with our creators. The cosmic timetable established millions of years ago is reaching its culmination, and humanity stands poised to reclaim its birthright as a hybrid species designed to bridge Earth and the stars. As we move deeper into the 21st century, the cosmic wheels set in motion by the Anunnaki millions of years ago continue turning toward their inevitable conclusion. Nibiru's approach, though still centuries away, is already beginning to influence Earth's magnetic field, climate systems, and most importantly, human consciousness itself. The knowledge downloads encoded in our DNA are accelerating. Breakthrough discoveries in genetics, physics, and consciousness research are revealing truths that validate ancient Sumerian records with startling accuracy. We are remembering who we are, where we came from, and what we were designed to become. But with this awakening comes responsibility. The Anunnaki didn't create us merely as laborers or servants. They created us as bridge beings capable of combining the best qualities of both terrestrial and cosmic consciousness. We were designed to eventually take our place among the stars as equals, not as servants. The choice facing humanity is profound. We can continue following the path of those who would keep us ignorant of our true nature, accepting lives of limitation and spiritual poverty, while our cosmic family remains distant. Or we can embrace our genetic heritage, develop our latent capabilities, and prepare for reunion with the beings who gave us consciousness itself. The signs are everywhere for those with eyes to see. Ancient sites worldwide are activating, displaying energy signatures that modern science cannot explain. Human beings with strong Anunnaki genetic markers are experiencing spontaneous awakenings, remembering past lives, developing psychic abilities, and receiving information downloads that contain knowledge beyond their formal education. Most remarkably, sensitive individuals report increasing contact with non-human intelligences who identify themselves as the returning Anunnaki. These communications, occurring through dreams, meditation, and direct psychic contact, deliver consistent messages. The time of reunion approaches. Humanity is awakening to its true nature, and preparation must begin for the next phase of our cosmic evolution. We stand at the threshold of the greatest revelation in human history. Everything we have been taught about our origins, our capabilities, and our destiny has been carefully crafted to keep us small, controlled, and separated from our cosmic inheritance. But the time of deception is ending. The Anunnaki genetic codes stirring within our DNA carry more than just enhanced intelligence and psychic abilities. They carry the blueprint for humanity's transformation into a cosmic species capable of traveling between stars, communicating across dimensional barriers, and taking our place among the galactic community of advanced civilizations. This transformation cannot be stopped by those who profit from human ignorance and limitation. It is encoded in our very cells, time to activate as we approach the cosmic appointment our creators established before their departure. We are not alone in the universe. We never have been alone. We are the children of the stars, created by beings of wisdom and power who will return to guide us toward our true destiny. The forbidden movie that shocked the world in 2025 will be remembered as the moment when humanity began its final awakening. When the veil of deception was lifted and we saw ourselves clearly for the first time in millennia. When we stopped accepting the limitations imposed by those who fear our true potential and began preparing for reunion with our cosmic family. The golden age prophesied by every ancient tradition is not a distant dream. It is our approaching reality. As the Anunnaki return in 2900 CE, they will find not the primitive survivors they left behind after the flood, but a mature hybrid species ready to claim its inheritance among the stars. The choice is ours. We can remain as slaves to ignorance and limitation, or we can awaken to our true nature as cosmic beings created to bridge heaven and earth. The genetic activation is beginning. The cosmic timetable is unfolding. The return of our creators approaches. Are you ready to remember who you truly are? The time of revelation has come. The age of awakening has begun. May the eternal light of cosmic consciousness forever guide your path, as you prepare for humanity's greatest transformation. Remember to question everything you have been taught, seek the truth hidden in ancient texts, and prepare your consciousness for the cosmic reunion that will define humanity's future. The stars are calling us home,